Run, Run, Run by Mark Capell. Chapter 1. Frank watched the art critic nudge the glasses further up his nose to examine the painting called Knife Textures 1. Without turning to Frank, he asked, "What's it like to kill a man?" "Why don't you try it?" said Frank, without a flicker. The critic guffawed as he typed the quote into his iPhone. In the run-up to the first exhibition of his work, Frank Tong refused to give interviews, but that hadn't prevented the Times, Telegraph and the Guardian running articles about him. Though written by the arts correspondents, the pieces contained as much information about his criminal life as his painting. They indulged themselves in examining the link between his previous life as a villain and his new life as an artist. Just like his brother, they couldn't accept that Frank needed both in his life. Even now, when he was on the verge of becoming a successful, respected artist. Reform and redemption were the cliches these journalists pulled off the shelf. Maybe it was what their readers wanted to hear. But violence and art were married in Frank's mind, and it was a beautiful, perfect marriage in which the passion would never die. He often mixed a couple of drops of his own blood with the paint. He enjoyed watching the thinner blood get swallowed up by the thicker paint. Swallowed up, but organically still there, existing within like a disease. People who bought his paintings got a little piece of him. He never told anybody he did this. It lessened the thrill. In half an hour at the swanky gallery in Mayfair, London, Frank had done little more than nod at anybody the publicist introduced him to. The art world, however, seemed to like this attitude. They raised eyebrows at each other, miming gratitude at having survived an encounter with this grisly member of the underworld. "Which artist has been most influential on your own work?" But Frank didn't answer the critic. Instead, he turned on his heels, walked out into the cold February night, got into his car, and began the drive to Leicestershire, 100 miles north. The journey up the M1 gave Frank time to calm down. He would soon be riled again, as surely as a cloud always spoilt a fine day in a British summer, which was okay by Frank. He never liked warm weather. It irritated the scars on his arms. "In 100 yards, turn left," said the sat-nav. Frank turned the wheel of his Audi A4, guiding it into another suburban street. He was nearly there. A sign told him he was entering the town of Countersop. It was brick after brick, one house after another. The owners probably thought of them as their castles. But what use was a castle without a drawbridge? The Thompsons were about to find out. He gripped the steering wheel tighter, watching the muscles flex in his arms. He was built like a soldier, despite not visiting the gym for a few months. His hair wasn't like a soldier's. It reached down to his shoulders and was already mostly grey, even though he was only 38 years old. He enjoyed watching himself age. It made him smile. Well, almost. The line of his mouth was happier when straight. "In 200 yards, turn right," the sat-nav intoned. Vincent van Gogh was his major influence, but it was none of the art critic's business. He wasn't an influence stylistically. It was more the self-mutilation that Frank could relate to. He thought of one of Van Gogh's paintings, The Starry Night, as he looked up at the sky through his windscreen. There were no stars tonight, nor any night. Modern street lighting had dazzled them out of the sky. Frank didn't miss them. People romanticize stars too much. Turn right. Frank did so. He looked at the sat-nav's display, glowing in the dark. Not far to go. The couple would be shocked. They thought they were safe. Safe from the tongs? That was a crazy thought. The couple might have been the victims of circumstances, but they'd had several chances to walk away. Soon, they would be unable to walk, unable to breathe. Frank took a deep breath. "In 50 yards, you have reached your destination." Frank looked forward to the end of the cul-de-sac. Number 16 hung on the wooden gate, brass figures illuminated by the spears of light from his headlights. He eased the car forward the last 20 yards, like a slow exhale, like a last breath. Just as in all the other houses, the lights were out. It was 3 a.m. after all, the vulnerable hour when statistically most people died.